Hi guys, welcome to day 8 of Hidden Philippine History. Today's story is unique because we're talking about the most important event in the Philippine Revolution, the event that started the war for independence, and historians can't even agree on where it happened, or when it happened, or even exactly what happened. This is the Cry of Balintawak, or is it the Cry of Pugad Lawin? Maybe Bahay Toro. After 125 years, we're still arguing about the revolution that supposedly unified us. If that doesn't blow your mind, nothing will. Before we dive into this historical mystery, smash that like button, comments, hit subscribe, and let's get this video to 500 likes, because day 8 of Hidden Philippine History is about to get wild. Okay, so here's what we know for absolute certain. Late August 1896, somewhere north of Manila, Andres Bonifacio and hundreds of Katipunan members gather for a meeting. The Katipunan, the secret society fighting for independence, has been discovered. Spanish authorities are arresting members. The choice is simple: surrender and die, or fight now, even though they're not ready. Bonifacio says fight. The Katipuneros tear up their cedulas, those residence certificates that represent Spanish control over Filipino lives, and they shout, "Mabuhay ang Pilipinas." The Philippine Revolution begins. That's the story everyone agrees on. Now here's where it gets absolutely insane. Where did this happen? Bonifacio's own wife, Gregoria de Jesus, the woman we covered on day 3, says it happened in Balintawak at Tandang Sora's house. But Pio Valenzuela, another Katipunan leader who was actually there, says no, it was Pugad Lawin. Other witnesses mention Bahay Toro, Pasong Tamo, Kangkong. These places are all in the same general area, but they're not the same location. The National Historical Commission has changed their official position like 5 times. Right now they say Pugad Lawin, but historians still debate it. When did it happen? Most sources say August 23rd, 1896. Some say August 24th. Others argue for August 25th or even August 26th. We celebrate Cry of Pugad Lawin Day on August 23, but we're not actually sure that's the right date. Imagine not knowing when your country's revolution started. That's the Philippines right now. What exactly happened? Everyone agrees cedulas were torn and revolution was declared, but the details are all over the place. Some accounts describe thousands of people with dramatic speeches and unanimous commitment. Other accounts describe a desperate meeting where Bonifacio struggled to convince reluctant members. Some versions make the tearing of cedulas a central dramatic moment. Others barely mention it. That famous image of Bonifacio holding up a torn cedula that you see in textbooks might be completely symbolic rather than documenting a real moment. If you're sitting there thinking this is ridiculous, drop a comment right now saying, "How do we not know this?" Let's see how many of you are as confused as historians are. So why can't we agree on basic facts about such an important event? First reason, the Katipunan was a secret society. They didn't keep detailed meeting minutes because keeping records could get everyone executed. The people there weren't thinking about documenting history, they were thinking about not dying. Second reason, most accounts were recorded years or even decades after the event. Gregoria de Jesus was interviewed in the 1920s and 30s, 40 years after it happened. Human memory is terrible over that timescale. We forget, we confuse events, we fill in gaps with what seems logical. Third reason, politics. Different revolutionary factions had reasons to emphasize their version of events. After the revolution, there was a brutal power struggle between Bonifacio loyalists and Aguinaldo supporters. How people remembered and reported the cry was influenced by which side they were on. Fourth reason, the Spanish destroyed tons of Katipunan documents when they crushed the Manila Rebellion, eliminating primary sources that might have clarified everything. But here's what's actually fascinating. The uncertainty doesn't diminish the importance. If anything, it makes it more powerful. The Cry of Balintawak, or Pugad Lawin, or wherever it happened, isn't important because of specific logistics. It's important because it represents the moment when Filipinos stopped accepting colonial rule and started fighting back. Whether that happened in Balintawak or Pugad Lawin on August 23rd or August 25th, with 1,000 people or 100, the essential truth remains. Bonifacio and the Katipunan launched a revolution that would eventually drive Spain out of the Philippines. Think about the symbolism of tearing the cedulas. The cedula was more than just paper. It was the colonial state made tangible. Every Filipino had to carry one and present it to authorities on demand. It tracked where you lived, what you paid in taxes, whether you were allowed to move. Tearing it wasn't just practical rebellion. It was symbolic rejection of the entire colonial system. In that gesture, Filipinos declared they would no longer be subjects of Spain, but citizens of their own nation. That happened. Where exactly it happened? That's detail. The meaning is what matters. The debate over the cry also reveals something crucial about how history works. We want neat narratives with clear facts. We want to know exactly what happened, when, and where. But history, especially revolutionary history, is messy. People remember events differently. Records contradict each other. Political interests shape what gets recorded and what gets forgotten. The historian's job isn't always to find the truth, but to understand why we have multiple competing truths and what those contradictions reveal. In some ways, the debate over the cry is itself historically significant. It shows the Philippine Revolution wasn't this unified, organized movement with everyone on the same page. It was chaotic. Different people experienced it differently, remembered it differently, claimed it differently. That's actually more realistic than the cleaned-up version in textbooks where everything is clear and everyone agrees. What matters most isn't the exact location or date. What matters is what it meant. It meant Filipinos had reached the breaking point. 300 years of Spanish colonialism, the execution of Rizal, the discovery of the Katipunan, it all came to a head in late August 1896. Bonifacio and his followers chose armed resistance over continued submission. They started a war they knew would cost thousands of lives. They did it anyway because the alternative, continued colonialism, was unbearable. Here's something that should make you think. While historians argue about whether it was Balintawak or Pugad Lawin, they all agree on what happened next. Within weeks, revolution spread across Luzon. Thousands joined the fight. Spanish authority collapsed in province after province. The revolution that started with torn cedulas and disputed locations became a genuine war for independence that nearly succeeded. The cry happened. Revolution began. The Philippines would never be the same. That's not disputed. The exact GPS coordinates, the precise calendar date, those are footnotes to the real story, which is that ordinary Filipinos decided they'd had enough and were willing to die fighting for freedom. So where was the cry of Balintawak? Maybe Balintawak, maybe Pugad Lawin, maybe somewhere in between. When was it? Probably August 23rd, possibly August 24th, maybe August 25th. Does it matter? Only if you think historical precision is more important than historical meaning. The cry happened, revolution began, Filipinos chose freedom. That's what you need to know. If you're loving this series on hidden and complicated Philippine history, hit that like button and comments right now. Subscribe because tomorrow, day 9, we're covering the Negros Revolution of 1898, the only Philippine revolution that succeeded without firing a shot. Yeah, you read that right. A bloodless revolution that actually worked. You won't believe how they did it. Share this video with every Filipino who thinks they know their history. Tag your friends. Post it in your group chats. Because the revolution that started everything can't even agree with itself about what happened. And that's exactly the kind of messy, complicated truth that makes history real. The Cry of Balintawak, or Pugad Lawin, or wherever. The revolution nobody can agree on. The moment that changed everything. The proof that even when we don't know all the facts, we know what matters. Filipinos fought back, and that's the only fact that really counts. Day 8 done. See you tomorrow for day 9. Mabuhay.